Good morning and welcome to our Pleasure for Health podcast. My name is Ailsa Kepi and I'm your host today. We're talking about all things relationship and intimacy related. You can always find out more about me on my website, forhealth.com, where you can see how you can work with me, how to catch up with my blog and other podcast episodes there. So today we are going to dive into a topic that you might at first say, I don't want to talk about myself. I want to find a partner. I want to find someone to live with, make a life with. I want to have friends and family members that respect and honor me as a person. What does this have to do with me? So what I would say, short answer, is everything. Everything to do with us. And I just wanted to make this podcast particularly because we often forget when we're looking for a companion or we're filling in those online, profiles and things, what are you looking for and all of that. But who are we? Who are we and what do we put out there? And I don't mean just put out there when you're on a date and you're on your best behavior, but what do you put out there behind the scenes? What do you like when you're on your own at home or you've had a hard day or, you're really tired or you're not feeling well? What do you like on those times? Because that's really what it comes down to when we're talking about a life partner or a spouse or looking for, a best friend or someone to live with. We're wanting someone that we can get through the tough times with and that, actually, you might have those hard days or whatever, and you might need some support now and then, but none of us wants to be living with someone that always looks at the bad side of things or always needs support. We need that give and take. So I had recently an experience having someone stay in our house, and it was interesting to notice what that was like, because it's very different when you start living with someone, when you're really close to them, what comes out. And I would say, if you're looking for a great companion, let's ask ourselves, are we a great companion? Would I hang out with myself? And that's a really good question because, many of us kind of don't notice what we're doing in a lot of the times. And, the world is full of doom and gloom, or at least the news often is, and a lot of what we're told about what's happening in the world. And, this can get pretty depressing. And if we then also kind of are always in the doom and gloom of things, it can get a bit much. And, depending on who you are as a person, maybe everyone has their things that they like and their level of enthusiasm or hopefulness, all of that. We probably are going to attract someone very similar to ourselves. So it's interesting to kind of notice who we are attracting. It's interesting to hear people say, I want to speak my truth. I want to be with someone that is authentic and speaking their truth. But what that means is, I'm going to tell you when you suck or when things are good. I'm going to speak up. I want to tell my truth when, I've just had a really bad day and I actually feel horrible. I mean, that is a truth, but I'm pretty sure that is not your entire truth. And why do we not choose to, speak our truth when everything's going well? When you wake up and you feel amazing and the sun shines, where's the dedication to speaking the truth then? Well, okay, we just start taking that for granted. And so speaking our truth and being authentic becomes, I'm going to tell you all about my wounds and about my pain and about what I'm feeling bad about. That's me speaking my truth. This is not just, positivity is not inauthentic if it's true. So I think that, there's something about having someone that we're close to that can both tell us how they're feeling when it's not so great, but they also tell us how they're feeling when they feel amazing. Or they're just like, I'm so excited about going to do this new class, or listening to this podcast on Saturday morning is so great. And I learn a lot and it gives me something to think about for the day. That could be speaking your truth too. And so we have these kind of relational things that in the general social milieu of North America, we've become used to speaking your truth means, telling what's wrong or telling what's painful or telling, what we could improve on. But speaking our truth just means speaking whatever is up in the moment. And so perhaps there's some other things to focus on there as well. So that's one thing that I wanted to kind of, see if there's anyone out there that agrees with me about, what is your truth right now? Like maybe you woke up and the sun's shining, you're going skiing today, or whatever's happening, and it's actually a really awesome day. And have you told anybody that? Have you gone to your partner and say, oh my gosh, it's such a great morning. I'm so glad I'm here with you and that we get to spend the whole day today together. Is that something that you have made a point to say, as much as those times where you're like, we really need to have a talk, and I really find this and this and this aggravating. Can we work on it? That's also a truth. But I think balancing that out is interesting and worthwhile if we want to create a relationship where we're happy to be in it. Because most of us are like, if we're just living our life looking at all the woundedness of ourselves, we're only going to look around, see other people's wounds. We're going to see the pain. We're going to see the darkness. Where does our responsibility come in as far as looking for the other authentic things that are happening? Not to deny the pain or deny that there's bad things happening. There absolutely are. But we need to make sure that we're not just a Debbie Downer. And I hate to use those kind of terms. Like if your name's Debbie, I'm sorry. You don't want to just be a downer. Let's just say that. We want to actually be someone that other people want to hang out with. And that means being authentic and being balanced in our joy and in our pain and in our, grief and in our longing and in our desire. There's so many parts of us that we could be authentic about and sharing. So, this is actually the journey of our inner child, if you will. So as a child, we don't really take responsibility, or it's not our responsibility to, help understand what our parents are up to, or take responsibility for really anything, as a very young child. And as we grow up, we're meant to go on this journey of taking responsibility for our actions, for our words, for the way that we are with other people. And you hear this sometimes, kids learn, okay, don't hit each other, don't take so-and-so's sandwich at lunch, or, all of these things. But after elementary school, are we still continuing that process of learning and growth? Are we still working on ourselves? Are we still growing up, or did we stop at the age of 10, perhaps, learning anything about taking responsibility for how we show up to our partners and to our friends and to our family? And, that is a radical act of growing up, that to take the wounds that all of us get in childhood, really. I mean, I don't think there's anybody that's going to come through childhood without any, negligence or woundedness of some kind. And so, as we grow up, we take responsibility for ourselves and we say, okay, I'm making a choice about what I share with my partner. I'm making a choice about how I show up today. I'm making a choice about whether I smile at the person in the grocery store or not. This is my responsibility as a grown-up to make choices and then to take responsibility for that. And if I choose not to engage in that, and if I choose to just share about my pain or my victimhood, or how it's been such a hard day for me, we all have those friends that like call us up when they've had a really hard day, the ones that are like, oh my God, I can't believe I had this really hard day and so cut me off, and then my mom called, can you believe this? And by the time you've listened to 15 or 20 minutes of this phone call, you feel really depressed. You're like, oh my God, I want to scream. And how quickly can you get off the phone? And, that's could be termed authentic sharing, but is that, is the person taking responsibility for what they're sharing of themselves and how they're perhaps imposing on others around them to take on their pain and their wounds as well? And so how can we actually step up and do our own work and take responsibility for ourselves? And this really is the inner self work that is required. And, you know, I think I talked in a previous video on YouTube anyway about inner child work and what was it. I mean, it's kind of gone out of fashion a little bit now, but it's still very worthwhile looking at. Nobody can actually look, hold us as if we, our young inner child self wants to be loved unconditionally. And the only person that can do that once we've become an adult is ourselves. We can hold ourselves in unconditional place of love. Perhaps you can term that God if you're religious and if you would like to take that persona, but we're holding ourselves in that unconditional love. We cannot look to other people to do that. So we take responsibility for our own inner child wanting that. Instead of looking to partners and friends to kind of put up with all of our, our pain and our crying and our, all our sadness, we do that for ourselves. I'm not saying you can never ask for support from people, absolutely, but take responsibility for the balance of that. And when do you offer support? And when do you show and be authentic in your joy? If I had to think about it, this was, kind of revelatory to me too. How often do I show my joy? How often do I tell my partner it's been an amazing day and oh my God, I'm so glad that we're doing this together? And I would always say not enough. Not enough. I mean, there's always something to say, why did you leave your clothes in the corner of the living room? Why didn't you do this? Why are the dishes not done? We didn't get this done. We don't have enough money. Like, there's always things. But when did we last say, oh my God, like this is, I'm so happy to be waking up with you, or I'm so glad that you called me and told me about your new job. It sounds amazing. Like, these are the things that also build relationship and build our ability to take responsibility in a relationship for our own stuff. And that is, for those of you that are catching on through some of my other podcasts here, that is the beginning of a boundary, right? We're keeping ourselves boundaried. And that means sometimes holding stuff in as well as keeping things out. We want to hold in some of our wounds, some of our pain, some of our sadness. Sometimes we want to hold that in because we don't want to just splat that all over everyone else. We want to actually work with it, see what you can do on your own and take responsibility for before you decide that you're just going to splat it all over your partner and expect them to take responsibility for your feelings. And so that's the beginning of really healthy boundaries, is having some containment. And I don't mean to never share your feelings, absolutely not. So for those of you that tend to hold everything in until you explode, I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about sifting through our own stuff and really making a responsible choice about what we share. And that is really the type of people that we want to hang out with. I know I don't want to be taking responsibility for someone kind of moping around the house and feeling sorry for themselves all the time. That takes me down too. I want someone that I'm around to be, sure, they might have a bad day and that's absolutely cool. I'm there for them. But let's see some other aspects of you as well. So I thought this was valid to kind of, or important to bring up, because there is so much focus in relationships coaching and in sex coaching and in all of, and, around intimacy, around the other, the other person has to understand us. We have to be, being authentic and telling them what we want. Sure, we do. And you have to really ask yourself, is this my inner child that doesn't want to take responsibility for my own joy and my own happiness? Am I just kind of reaching out for someone else to do that? Or am I, growing up and actually taking responsibility for my choices? So if you choose not to engage with people in a thoughtful or joyful way when you're having joy, then how do you expect them to invite you in when they're having a party? They might say, that person's always like in a bad mood. I'm not going to invite them to my party. And then we feel left out, and then we feel more sure that we are being left out, and that the world sucks, and kind of it's a self-defeating circle. So Today is Saturday, and for many of us, it's a long weekend. So, this is a wonderful time to practice the art of who are we authentically. Try to notice when you are feeling different feelings. So, if you're feeling sad or overwhelmed or depressed or heavy, take note of that. And what could you do to take responsibility for those feelings and work with them before you just go ahead and dump them all on someone else who may also be struggling with their own things? Could you journal? Could you go for a walk? Could you, find an activity, dance around the living room to your favorite songs? What can you do to take responsibility for that before you just go sharing all of that? And maybe after the end of 15 or 20 minutes of taking responsibility and changing your own thoughts and feelings, you'll have something different to share. And that might actually change the dynamics of your entire weekend, your entire life even. So let me know how that goes. And if it works for you, I'd love to hear about it. If you're interested in working with me, I offer all sorts of ways. There's online programs that you can do at your own pace around boundaries, around taking responsibility, around some of this inner child work. There's working with me individually in sessions, and I have some group programs coming up as well. One of which I'm excited about around the archetypes. It's going to be a monthly Zoom class, and we are going to start with the child archetype. So if this intrigues you at all in doing some of this work, keep your eye out, and I will be posting on my social media channels about that. It will be coming up. The first one is near the end of March. So I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and we will talk to you soon.